lives of the Jews, so that they were not killed or beaten, robbed.
Yes. Protect life.
Next.
Ensure rule of law.
Pardon?
Ensure rule of law.
Ensure rule of law.
Anything more? From public policy perspective, what do you think government should do? Who are the clients for government? The clients for government are people who have this characters. All of us, which belongs to us, we try to take care of it. If it belongs to everybody or it belongs to others, we don't care for that much. This is the client. All the citizens in all the states. And all governments face this problem. Our policy target is this kind of people. And second, a sound policy requires we need to consider long-term effects, not short-term immediate effects. That means we need to have in-depth understanding and ability to foresee and patience, perseverance. Now, first, to see long-term effects, equity, efficiency, effectiveness, economy, and entitlements. That's not poetry. All are quantifiable. So, policy intent has to be converted to policy design, because that policy design has to be made into policy operations. And operations can be measure and fruit. I would suggest you the Green Book of UK government from Treasury. Please read it once. And from government side, nobody spends somebody else's money as carefully as we spend our own money. This is the biggest challenge we face. On demand side, citizens are one side. From the supply side, management side, no government official spends money carefully. So the policy operations are executed by this kind of people. Second, the government has nothing to give to anybody except that they take from people. Fundamental truth. So if you promise more to government, intelligent citizens, smart people know that government is going to take more from you first. Then only government will give back. So how much more is being taken from citizens and how much more is being given is measurable. It's not something that comes in vacuum. How do we measure? We have political leaders. And all political leaders measure the benefit of their decisions. They measure benefit of their decisions in the form of votes. Anybody disagrees with this?
No. No one can disagree.
Right. So therefore, what is the cost? That's how many votes they get, how many votes they lose. That's what a politician looks at, and they're part of the system every way. How are politicians in Lithuania?
Yeah, according to benefits and costs, usually the costs are widespread and benefits are concentrated, usually in public policy. Yeah. Well, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. So what is the challenge for us?
To see that there are costs, to look at it and
If you are, there has to be political will. Politicians are there, political leaders are there. If there is no political will, whatever skills you have are of no use as an expert. So we need to have skills to match political will. The political will and bureaucratic skill, they should match. Now bureaucratic skills have to match only when we have expertise in policy analysis, policy promotion, policy persuasion. No, not just language skills. How do we persuade our policy is the best policy in politicians' mind. Therefore, we have to prove in any analysis, in any decision, that every public policy decision would have costs and benefits, which we do through various economic and financial analysis, return on investment, internal rate of return, cost benefit analysis. Politicians is not convinced inherently. Politicians will try to see if I implement the decision or if I agree for this decision, am I winning voters or am I going to lose voters? This is true everywhere. In presidential form of government or parliamentary form of government. Everywhere. A unitary form of federal structure. So the first one type is costs in terms of votes are widespread, benefits are widespread. Every politician just laughs on that decision, that policy. For example, immunization, a successful public policy in India. Benefits are spread, costs are spread, nobody comes in the way. But you go for electricity and nuclear. Benefits are concentrated, costs are widespread. So there is resistance. Either resistance from one angle, land acquisition angle, or environmental angle, or some other angle, or if nothing else, price subsidy angle. Second is, costs are widespread but benefits are concentrated. Politicians, in that case, get into corruption because they can get share from the benefit from few people. They need not negotiate with a large number of people. And benefits are widespread, costs are concentrated. The type 4. That no political system will accept it. So therefore, when we are going for policy research, while doing that financial, economic analysis, a kind of unstated, undisclosed political analysis is required in public policy. That convince the political leaders that particular decision is type 1. But my experience is that we cannot go for the first best solution all the time in government. There are so many forces working one against the other in the democratic system. Federal structure, states saying no to center. Within center, some group of the ministers say yes, some group says no. Bureaucrats says yes, politicians say no. So it takes time. So we don't wait all the time for type 1 solution. We start with second best, sometimes with third best solution in government. Maybe in private sector or maybe in personal life we want first best and the first best. But in public policy implementation point, we start sometimes with third best, but we keep on upgrading it. If we live in an idealized world, that we do it only when first best is possible, we start. You will not have policy launched at all. And the challenge for researchers, the challenge for bureaucrats, and challenge for critics is, can somebody read it? This challenge involving, can somebody read it, please? Can you see? Yes.
So we have to read that.
Second, challenge in evolving options.
I'll do.
Please.
Challenge is in evolving options that yield widespread benefits with widespread costs transparently. Risk is in defining, measuring, and ensuring the spread of the costs and benefits unambiguously. That's all. Okay.
First line, we analyze this. You cannot have one solution. You have to evolve options. You cannot go to Prime Minister or you cannot go to President, this is it, accept it, or leave it. No. This is it, 1, 2, 3. Evolving options is the one we have to do while we are doing research or while we are evolving policies. But we should do it transparently. It's not that we can be vague. There should not be ambiguity in our statements, in persuasion, in expression, in presentation. Everything has to be stated clearly. But the biggest challenge and risk for us is defining the benefits and defining the beneficiary. I don't know how many of you are familiar with UID, Universal Identity Card, right? So every citizen is like United States has a social security number. So every citizen is proposed to be given an identity number, unique identity number. And that is to be done by using IT, information technology, various. It's very intended, but the confusion is in defining the benefit of using it. That was not clearly stated in the beginning. When new came, they assessed the benefit versus cost, and costs were much higher than benefit, though they abandoned. But we could not do here, so we are keep on changing, ultimately reaching a stage only being proposed for people to get welfare benefits. Nothing else. The costs of UID, unique identity card, the costs are becoming very high. Who will bear the cost? The state and the citizen? Undefined. So one of the public policy research areas is UID project in India, how it started, how it's being implemented, the gap between intent and practice. Because the benefits and costs are not clearly defined. Risks are many. Politicians will be more interested if you present the case saying that this benefit is for your voters, for your party. For your voters means first is geographical constituency, second ideological constituency, third political constituency. So when we are persuading through meetings, through presentations, through debates, without making it obvious, the political leadership looks for the signals. So what kind of communication you use to persuade the political leadership also matters. I don't know how many of you are researchers and researchers only. How many of you are researchers? And how many of you are in the government? How many of you are in the government system?
What is the question? How many enter the government system?
How many of you are actually into government system, converting your ideas into policy or launching policy into action?
We try to do
the
that.
government decisions.
From outside government or from inside government?
From outside.
Outside. So what is research? That advocacy. Right? So what doing advocacy? And people who are within, like me, like him, they have a different way of communicating without making. So when you go for advocacy, politician always looks for voters. The prenatal care is for unborn voters. Infants or any programs for preventing infant deaths, they are for future voters. Or schooling for future voters. Or a free meal scheme in the schools where students are given food. That is for future voters. A politician will try to see from that angle. The greatest example of no meal scheme being successful in Tamil Nadu, where nobody thought, M.G. Ramachandran thought of future voters and stuff. Though it's unstated political intention. It's not bad. But politicians look at that. And all these are part of the productive functions or protective functions. The government, for example, defense is a protective function. Health, protective function. But investing in agriculture, investing in infrastructure is a productive function. So entire government policies either that is protective functions or productive functions. So it has to be presented for policy operations that this particular policy is going to give productive results, or this particular policy is going to have protective benefits. If we make it clear, the acceptability increases. I asked how many of our researchers, because research is not an end itself. Research output is a means for better action. If you stop only at research, fine. You can have some publications, you can have some reports, and you can have a long CV. But it is not an end in itself, unless your idea is translated into policy action. How to do that? Advocacy. It is not possible for all people to convert your research idea into action. You need partners. Like, what is that? P.T. Usha's? P.T. Usha was famous for that. One is athletes, 100 meters, 200 meters. Second is relay race. Relay race. You need to have partners everywhere for relay race. If you want to go, I want the sprint queen or sprint king, you end up in 100. Or if you want to do alone, be a marathon runner. Have the patience, build up. But it is long term. But if you want quick results, have a team of 3 or 4 people to see end. This is the cycle, the Australian public policy cycle, which the bureaucrats are going to learn. There is no starting or ending point because policies keep on evolving every time. So first, let us say consultation. So consultation is the first step in policy formulation. Then coordination of ideas and coordination between various agencies to arrive at decisions, the policy decisions, then implementation, evaluation, identifying the issues in evaluation, analysis, defining policy instruments, again consultation. If I ask you one question, give one example of policy instrument. The most powerful policy instrument. What is the instrument of policy in your country?
Well, one of it is publicity. Publicity is one of them.
Okay.
We try to promote our ideas through the publicity.
Okay.
This would be one of it. Then we go meet politicians and persuade them.
Okay, you meet politicians, what do you ask them?
Sorry?
You meet politicians?
Yeah.
Why?
Because we want to persuade them that this idea is great and it would be better for them too, and not only for the public.
Okay. Can you give an example of any such persuasion you had with politicians in recent past, or which you think that the best persuasion?
One of the reform that we were part of, for example, was pension reform.
Okay.
Yeah, and we made two-pillar pension reform. Before that, it was only public pension, and then we introduced a private pension part. This is one of the reform that we were participating in.
How did politicians convert that into action?
There was a great discussion among all the ministries.
That's consultation?
Yeah, it was consultation.
Right?
Yeah.
Consultation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then the coordination part would be that they are.
No, you tell me as experience. I convert it to this side.
Okay. So yeah, so then what happened? This idea was discussed all over public, also through the ministries, through the parliament. I mean, all the governmental institutions.
Parliament.
Yes.
What is the role played by parliament?
They pass laws.
That's the policy, first powerful policy instrument. Right? The first and powerful policy instrument is converting policy to law. And there comes parliament. There comes politician. So the ability to convert policy into law. It can be an act, it can be a rule, it can be a regulation, or it can be a constitutional provision. Because we have gone first. No government gives you more than what it takes. Right? But to give pension, government has to take. And government takes what? Tax. How did the history of taxation start? In democratic system. Magna Carta. How many are aware of that? Magna Carta, 1,000 years ago. No taxation without representation. If you have to write democratic budget history, we have to start from there. In UK. The Magna Carta said basically no taxation without representation. So, and no government delivers welfare without money. And no money comes without legislative power. You said protection of property. But if government takes away your property, do you agree?
Yeah, it does take care.
Under a law.
Yeah.
As per rule of law. If government takes away property without following rule of law, you protest, there will be revolution. People rebel. Therefore, a law has to be passed. The greatest and most powerful instrument is legislation. So policy has to be converted into legislation. So we have to think what kind of, after, as a researcher, when we look for policy analysis, A, within the existing policy instrument, how this solution fits into. Start from the constitutional framework. If we are talking anything about, does it satisfy the fundamental rights? If it is in India, or if you are looking globally, does it satisfy the human rights? Does it satisfy the benchmarks of good governance? There is good governance framework, which some governments may agree, may not agree. But surely every government follows a constitutional framework. So while doing policy research, we need to be familiar with the country's legal framework. Otherwise, we are working in what will be frustrated. So which is the law of the land? And the awareness of that law is we need to have. And there is a great scope of consolidating all laws. I am working at National Law School. Since yesterday I was persuading, they have created a very good database. If you are interested, I can use them. At the click of the button, available to anybody, what are the different enactments passed in India since 18th century. And what are the court decisions, various high courts, Supreme Courts of India, including Commonwealth countries, including Australia, including UK, Canada, veterans. So my interest, I am pursuing some studies in National Law School, receiving and doing both. Any policy intent has to come to law. And the policy intent was debated in the Parliament of the country at that time. It was in 1991. I got a reference, I was in the Ministry of Economic days. R&D, all of us know what this means, research and development. So there is an act called R&D CES Act. brought into force through Ministry of Industry. The small report of that is that all industrial units, when they are exporting anything outside, small cess will be collected from those exporters, and that cess will be called R&D cess fund. And from that fund, the new research will be promoted. So it is, policy intent was how to promote research for innovations, for intellectual property rights. But how to finance that research is the issue. So who will pay for that? Whether taxpayers will pay or successful entrepreneurs who already did some research, who are exporting their commodities outside India, when they are successful entrepreneurs, their output was recognized outside the country. So therefore, they should contribute towards research and development. So part of the money, fraction, was being collected and kept into the kitty, which was to be distributed to new research institutions. There is a policy and financing channel. That came to me as a reference because one exporter exported goods to Russia, USSR at the time. And at that export, the cess was collected and deposited in the fund created for that. But the quality of the goods that landed in Soviet Russia were found to be inferior. So the importer then Soviet Russia rejected the consignment. Consignment came back to Bombay. This exporter has to pay back the money. But part of that money is already given to government kitty as R&D cess. How to get that money out of that fund? That is not right. It came to me from Ministry of Industry to Finance. Now I had a big problem because the politicians and the researchers, people of that time didn't anticipate such withdrawal from fund because of failure of quality happened. They never anticipated. Then I was middle-level officer those days, so my superiors asked to find out some solution. It's a genuine case, but not of the product. So I thought, okay, I went to Parliament and looked at the Parliament debates because politicians are wise. You may not agree. But first thing they must understand the ability to communicate and convince thousands of people to their idea, which you don't have. Politicians can communicate and convince a larger number of people to their idea, to their business. Therefore, they become to the politics. Some of them they will have some of them will have some negatives which you don't like, but some others may like. So I thought our political leaders are not so named that they can't anticipate. When I turned into the debates of the time, sometime in the 1970s, some politicians, particularly the opposition politicians of that time, they anticipated these situations. In their discussions, they mentioned, but democracy works by vote, number of votes. Therefore, the amendments suggested at that time were not taken. So when you are looking into law or any policy, please go into Parliament debates at that time, which I did. I did some research on trademarks. The Minister of Commerce at that time, when he was introducing the bill, in the first opening statement he said, we know as politicians, the election symbol is our lifeline. Through election symbol we communicate with voters. We can't allow anybody to damage our symbol. And for businessman, trademark is equally powerful. With that opening statement, Murusulman took entire house in his favor. The trademark is very powerful symbol for a businessman, as powerful as election symbol for a politician is. When I read the debates, hats off to him, he's no more. But the way that he communicated to parliamentarians, so going to parliament debates all the time. So the National Law School, I said, when they are making this law, provide links to the parliament debates all the time. They are available in archives, in Congress Congress, in UK House of Commons, in Indian Parliament. Make them digital archives, link the lawyers, the policy researchers, the judges will interpret the law differently if they have access to that. Because they know who are the original leaders who spoke about that. So the policy instrument is one thing which I like. This process is necessary.
About parliament debate when you are talking about. So this is, I also understand it's a very good thing, but if the debate happens, otherwise these days we also find that debate not happening at all and the policy being passed. Right. So after a very long time, this time when there was a discussion or debate on local bill, so that is the only time after a very long period I found that there was a kind of quality debate. Otherwise, they simply pass it and debate is also not happening much. So what to do in that case?
How many times you attended parliament yourself?
These days I have started watching the Lok Sabha
Because of television.
Because of television, no, I have not.
So on television, whatever the cameraman wants to show, that only appears, right?
Okay.
You saw what is shown by private channels or by those?
The Lok Sabha channel, which is.
So I think they will show whatever happens in the Lok Sabha. There are very beautiful debates, meaningful discussions going on. Unfortunately, our media show the other side only.
Go to the website. Read the parliament questions and answers.
Right.
First, and read the speeches given by ministers. I am not speaking for politicians. You believe in democracy. And you are lucky to be in a democratic government.
Right.
And politicians are part of that. I want democracy, but I don't want politicians. You can't.
It's not going to happen.
I want free market, but I don't want traders. You can't. Traders are also equally bad, like politicians. They are in financial market, commodity markets, and these are in political markets. We want free market, but we want free market accepting tolerate with all imperfections. But when it comes to politicians, our expectations are unrealistic or very high, idealistic. But sometimes I challenge, if you become a politician, how ideal you would be in practice.
I will be the worst one.
Reforms. The basic questions we pose for reforms is, what is to be reformed? And in which direction? For whom? For what? And how? These are straight questions we need to ask when we are talking, when we say this is bad and need to reform. We just can't say reforms. The issues that come here is self-interest of citizens. And those all of you who are in the market and democracy, please read The Calculus of Consent by James Buchanan, who got a Nobel Prize in Economics. And another is that Joseph Stiglitz, read Information Asymmetry. And markets get distorted when there is information asymmetry or information mismatch, supply and demand. And these two Nobel Prizes transform most of the things in the world at organizational level. Self-interest of citizens is what the citizen is interested in. No citizen works for public interest. So government has to deliver to citizens for private interest and convince others in public interest. Biggest challenge. Defining public interest while serving self-interest of citizens. This is the problem. Next, public opportunity cost, market system and command system, which we were talking about an hour ago. Some of you were just babies, migrated to market system. How did you experience the concept of price for ice cream, or for chicken, or for a matchbox, or for petrol, or for bread, or for clothes, or for shirt? You say that a lender who gave money goes back to collect from his friend as a money lender, and the person who borrowed has nothing to give, so he gave a leather jacket. And that leather jacket, fellow for some reason goes and exchanges for a car. And the car fellow exchanges for 2 apartments. So if you write an equation, 2 apartments were equal to 1 leather jacket. That was the situation in early 1990s when command economy shifted to market economy. The skill to discover price is a great reform, and market is an instrument, an institution given to the civilization in 18th century, a great institution. Like democracy came as an institution thousands of years ago. Market came as an institution in the current sense after industrial revolution. Before that there was a market, but that market was more of information asymmetry. But democracy is always taken over by corporates. Now this is what we are talking reforms about. Everywhere, who pays, who benefits. In the first matrix we have seen how the costs are concentrated, how benefits are spread. Here we are trying to see who produces those benefits and who pays for those benefits. There are 2 people to produce, either a private enterprise or a government enterprise. All the benefits are produced by these 2 entities, either this or this. And the users pay, either the consumers or taxpayers. Only 2 types of payments are possible. You pay price or you pay tax. Now, for example, the quadrant A. It's a private enterprise, a consumer pays for that. For example, movies, apples, clothing, private schools, medicines. Produced by private enterprises, used by consumers, we pay a price and happy. Quadrant B. Schools, the voucher system, or social security insurance. This is BPL is in Indian context, CGH is in Indian context. And food distribution at subsidized prices. It's private enterprise is producing, but they are paid by taxpayer. Okay. Private schools managed by private entities, but taxpayer is giving grants, taxpayer is giving land, taxpayer is providing so many amenities. Quadrant C. Government produces and taxpayer pays. National defense, law and order, police, justice, universities, highways, government debts. It is government enterprise, taxpayer. Here you find posts, rail, water, electricity, toll roads, hospital services. Government is producing, but consumers are paying. So the challenge of reforms towards market is bring more and more services to B and A. That's what reforms for last 25-30 years. How to make private enterprises to produce, how to make consumers to pay for that. Your jails in UK, they are outsourcing jail administration. This is a sovereign function, justice, but they are outsourcing. So they are shifting from C to D. This is what reforms are all about. I tried to fix it into matrix based on some references which are given. What happened in India structural reforms? I tried to list, there are 14 areas where reforms were attempted, and that is exhausting. Can somebody read it quickly? This will, thereafter I have one slide and we'll discuss about it. Liberalization and regulation of specific markets. The markets are product markets, financial markets, capital markets, commodities markets. We have capital markets like stock exchanges, financial market like banking, money markets, commodity markets including petrol, food, and we have factor market, the labor market, land market. Trade liberalization, the WTO regime, public sector management, which in India, peculiar to India, restructuring and privatizing utilities, that's water supply, sanitation, public health, electricity, telephones. And number 5 is across all the governments all over the world, including American governments. How to reduce subsidy burden, how to make fiscal consolidation, which is my subject area of specialization by virtue of my work. Tax reforms is another reform area. Public debt management. Here we progressed a lot. Here also we progressed a lot. Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, the legislation was passed, and thereafter there are a lot many good things. Not that they are perfect, but good. So is tax reforms. One of the tests of tax reforms is what is the source of your tax revenue? Direct taxes or indirect taxes? An economy where direct taxes are more, we are progressing towards tax reforms. A rigid country, a poorer country depends more on indirect taxes. A progressive economy draws more from direct taxes. So in India now direct taxes are more than 50% of total tax revenue. So that's impact of reform. And reforms in taxation, they go for institutional reforms, legal reforms, tax rate reforms, and tax collection capacity. All these things include reforms. Monetary policy, how independent your central bank is another reform. And private and public government reforms. When we say private governance, any idea what is that? Private sector reforms. What is there to reform private sector? What is there to reform private sector? Corporate governance, disclosures, transparency, accounting standards. If each company discloses their accounts in a different manner, investors cannot understand it. These are private sector reforms. Financial sector reforms, they are global. Decentralization inter-governmental relationships, that's local bodies, federal structure, central. Civil service reforms, people like who are rigid has to make this. And land reforms, biggest challenge anyway. Labor reforms, another complicated challenge. Number 13 and number 14 means all reforms are in place. which are not happening. So this is what, where we go for reforms. Implementation challenge. We reform it with evolve policy design, go for policy operations, bring out good policy instruments. But implementation challenges is always status quo bias. Everybody wants status quo. They don't have any changes. And information failure, I said that comma in one sentence, difference of 10 times the price. Information failure and status quo bias are two threats. And free riding is another threat for any reform. So the policy formulation has to address particularly 1, 2, 3. Then you can see the policy research at its peak. That's it. You can pick up and read. Any questions? Well, yes.
On the reform slide, the last two you mentioned about land reform and labor reform.
Only source. If they lose that small piece of land, they have no career, no life. And most of our farmlands are inefficient. If you are trying to make them efficient by consolidation or by mechanizing, people, they are at low level of equilibrium in life with the given technology, with the given farm size. Any movement from low level of equilibrium creates disequilibrium in life, which most of the people are reluctant to handle. Therefore, one resistance comes from status quo in land. Same with labor. To enter the new labor market, you require new skills, new competencies. Acquiring those skills and competencies at later part of life is very difficult. So no labor would like to upgrade skills, including you and me. And those labor who are ready to upgrade their skills, they are part of reform process. They don't advocate. And some of the status quoists also advocate reform, but they are not part of the reforms. That's sad. It's okay?
I think, I'm sorry, I think land reforms has another meaning.
Yes, sir.
Not just transforming the utility of land for industrial purpose as such. It had a different meaning or two than in 60s and 70s.
Farm
It's
size.
called the holding of,
Farm size.
yes,
Farm size.
the holding of land,
Yes.
land to the tiller. But it never, as you said, from that point of view, in India, it never, such revolution never took place, except in few states.
3 states: Bengal, Kerala, Jammu Kashmir. Why? No, I tried to read when the question I was posing myself. These 3 states historically have a different laws of inheritance. Culturally, perhaps they were attuned to different kind of emotional attachment with the land. This part, Kerala, has matriarchal society and property, good old days. It was passing through female lineage. In Bengal, it was passing through male lineage, but that was called a Dayabhaga school of law, not Mitaksha school of law. And Dayabhaga school of law has a tricky situation where children cannot ask for land as long as widowed mother is alive. And Jammu Kashmir is mostly Muslim personal law. So these 3 regions have laws of inheritance different from other parts of India. I don't know how far, this is only my kind of informed guess, but not researched conclusion.
No, sir, I think, I don't know whether it is misunderstood. Kerala, we have both matriarchal and patriarchal holding of land. Nair community and certain Hindu communities, they have matriarchal holding. But who hold it? You know, the very feudal ownership. There was a land ceiling, the excess land was redistributed. That was the philosophy of land reforms and revolution. That was the policy of Nehru, later on Mrs. Gandhi, and which was implemented in certain states. I don't say it was all successful. still in Kerala, the tiller, the laborer, he got a piece of land. There was the dismantling of this kind of feudal ownership. That is what I meant, land reforms.
Absolutely.
Which was not because of the social problem as such.
When I said these things,
there was a political, I am not going into the rightness or wrongness.
The 20th century is political and government policy instrument. But the sense of attachment to land, the emotional part of it, has centuries old attachment. The attachment to land that you find in Andhra or in Tamil Nadu or in Madhya Pradesh or Maharashtra is different from the emotional attachment that a Malayali has towards land as owned. That emotional side I'm talking about. I'm not talking about this civil.
Well, we also have terrific attachment to land. That is why, taking over a piece of land is a big problem here.
Yes.
There is attachment.
The kind that we face there. Because when I was studying for law, I was asking this question often. And one of the places where the land reforms failed is where people are introduced but also failed. Andhra, we can see. That was the reason. But that's a big issue. How is the property holding in Nepal? The land inheritance.
So if my father has got land, so it comes through the patriarchal lineage. So if if I'm just the one son, so I will hold up all the that land. So after the death of my father or my mother, so there may be 2 or 3 things that I may hold the whole thing. Otherwise, also my mother. So if she, that what we said that.
So there the land reforms may be very tough in that case. In that kind of setting.
So it can be distributed within brothers also, So if I have got 3 brothers, then it can be distributed. The same portion of the land may be distributed to the brothers. Yes. And also my mother, she can claim for that. But in case
of mother's property, she can only vie for the women's, as in the property that she took from her father's land. So if the husband dies away, she cannot directly claim the land of the husband, but she can. It's called women's property, Sridan. So she can only claim that.
How's in Malaysia, Islamic law?
What is that? 1/3. The husband dies, wife can claim from government because the contract. It depends on what kind of land they hold. They have 2 types of land, freehold and leasehold, depending on the contract.
So it's a contract between 2 generations, or it's a contract for a series of generations. Here it's a contract of series of generations in Nepal, which follows Hindu law of succession.
Okay, normally for leasehold, they can hold the land for about 60 years. So actually they can inherit the family, the wife or the son.
Okay. Maybe it will be, it will be a good idea to see the land reforms in Malaysia and the Islamic regime, land reforms in Nepal and Hindu regime, and CIS countries. Maybe we can have some discussion and do some research and.
Sure. We can have a section on that.
Yes. The loss of it, because land is a critical factor for agriculture and industries together.
And will you update you?
It's a learning for me.
After the passage of the Hindu Succession Act, I think today both sons and daughters, they are equal.
They're making a lot, but inherent attachment. If there's no more, I close.